This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
There we go. There we go. Good afternoon, young man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Shocking, right, that there'd be players in airports in South Florida.
Shocking.
Because nobody ever visits Miami from the NFL or lives in Miami.
Brother, if that was the case, all of our teams would be winning titles in every single sport all the time. Because maybe outside of hockey, I don't know. Maybe all the European players, maybe they're not hanging out in South Florida in their off season or whatever. But everybody else is here at one point or another, coming through South Florida. By the way, how wrong is Ira Winderman when I asked him who's the best third wheel in town, Tyler Hero or Carter Verhaeghe? Do you believe that he had the balls, and he watches hockey, and he knows hockey, okay?
Yeah.
He actually said Tyler Hero over Carter Verhaeghe. Seriously.
He's the Heat writer, and he's sticking up for what he covers.
No. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be objective about it. By the way, it's not even up for argument. That's how much I think Verhaeghe's better than Tyler Hero, okay? I don't even think it's a discussion. I mean, that guy showed me last year he was a badass.
He was a badass in the playoffs last year.
Yes, bro. That's why I wanted, Hubie gone, and I wanted a dog in there, and they went and got Kachuk, and Verhaeghe is another dog, bro. He's awesome, man. He's been terrific. That win last night, that was awesome, dude, because the best part about that win was game one. Because game one, they played well and they lost. So game two showed you that it wasn't fraudulent like the Heat. They were frauds in game one because Antetokounmpo went out. That's why they won the game, because there was no Giannis. And then in game two, they made their adjustments and they kicked their ass. To me, last night was proof that they can hang with this team. And by the way, we just realized this. The Panthers are the winningest team in the NHL against the Boston Bruins this season.
I knew that. Okay.
Well, you're Canadian.
I'm a puckhead. There you go.
Know that.
But I will point out, if you're going to mention dogs on the Panthers, and to me, the guy who was big last night, really, really big, was Sam Bennett.
Right.
I mean, tell me he didn't make a huge difference for that team. I mean,
of course, bro. Yes, of course. And by the way, to your credit, we were talking about this at the Combine. And you said the Panthers, their real problem was that they were unhealthy all season long. And then on top of that, with the new system, and we really had never gotten to see the real Panthers. And luckily, now at the back end here, Duclair, now Bennett and all that, now they're actually healthy, and they've played Boston well this season. And look what's gone on in the first two games. So to your credit, you kind of called this.
And you know what I also said, and I was consistent about this from the start, from the time they made the trade, is they're going to have a tough time making the playoffs, but if they do, they're going to be a lot tougher out.
You said that.
Than they were last year. And then look at the goals they scored last night. There was no pretty four-way passing plays like they did last year in the regular season. It was Boston turnovers or shots from the point with somebody in the goalie's face. You score ugly goals in the playoffs, and the Panthers were a pretty team. That doesn't work in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah, and that's what you said, actually, to piggyback off of what you just said. When you said that comment, I remember, because you also said that their style would be more suited because of Maurice. They would be more suited for playoff hockey than compared to what they were, in the past, because they were obviously a finesse team, in the past. So yeah,
I would make the argument that because of all the roster cuts they had to make because of the cap, with all the injuries / illnesses that they had, to me, them making the playoffs should get Paul Maurice at least a handful of Coach of the Year votes. I think the guy did a hell of a job, and I know there were some Panther fans halfway through the season who were ready to can his ass.
Yeah, definitely, for sure, because it didn't look like it was a good hire.
Correct.
At the moment. And, again, but now remember, a lot of us, me included, we're not hockey savants like you are. And so it's just one of those things. And it's the Panthers' fault in a way, because if they were more consistently good, I think it would create more interest for everybody, and everybody would learn the sport a lot more. Although this is the fourth straight year they make the playoffs, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So they are turning the corner under Viola and Sifu.
No, but they had the best record in NHL last year in the regular season. And not only that, they were so much fun to watch. Unfortunately, if the goal is to be entertaining, they should have stayed there with the same nucleus, but they weren't going to get very far in the playoffs with that formula.
Yeah, no, it takes a lot of balls too to do that. Seriously, because you're almost better off convincing yourself, like, no, hey guys, we were number one in the league. Let's just tweak it a little bit, and we'll be better this year. No, they went drastic, and that takes a lot of guts. And then, this is like Bitcoin going down to 16,000. You make all those changes, and the team looks like a disaster all year long. You know what I mean? And then you're kind of fighting out of it, and now it looks like you're headed in the right direction. Montour yesterday too, getting a couple goals. I mean, seriously, dude, that was good. That was good yesterday.
That was fun because I'm not no offense to anybody from Boston, but there's a little arrogance to their fandom. So just do a little bit of this.
Right.
It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah. They've had a lot of titles in that town over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
That's why that arrogance is there, because they win them in every damn sport.
That's true.
It's crazy, brother. They have had one hell of a run in that place. Tua yesterday, I think a lot of people kind of went a little bit overboard on it. If you really listen to him, he kind of caught himself in explaining he really wasn't thinking about retirement. He kind of brought it up that it's a conversation that he had with others, but in the end, you can tell that wasn't a guy that was ever going to turn it in.
Yeah, I don't know. Because here's the thing to me, and you can go a lot of different ways with this. To me, if he hadn't really thought about it, I don't think he would have brought it up.
He didn't bring it up.
Well, no, but he was asked. I'm saying he could have danced around the question, and he didn't need to be this candid. So I don't know. I'm not sure, and I think the parents, based on the interview that he had done with NBC after the Cincinnati concussion, where he talked about how his parents were kind of like, I don't remember the exact phrasing, but the parents were like expressing a lot of concern that maybe
right, yeah.
Well, you can only imagine what that conversation was like with his parents after the season.
But if you listen to it, you have it there queued again, Sean?
I was there. I mean,
I know you were there. I get it. But if you listen to him, he catches himself to kind of redirect what he was saying. And he kind of takes it in the direction of, yeah, we had that conversation, but in the end, I would never leave football. I want my kid, I'm paraphrasing, I want my kid to see me do what I do for a living, that kind of stuff.
But he also said, I was thinking about it for some time. There's the phrasing he used, so it wasn't just like a fleeting thought. So
right. So play the soundbite. Go ahead there, Sean.
Consider that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I considered it. For a time, having sat down with my family, having sat down with my wife, and having those kind of conversations. But
there you go. See, having sat down with my family and having those conversations,
it would be hard for me to. And
then he goes into it would be hard for me and all that kind of stuff. I think he did that to appease everybody, to say, "Oh, I've had those conversations." Like he's giving you the meat on the bone for you guys to write and you guys to talk about, and all that because of all this fake, emotion for him. Like they actually really give a shit about him and that he should retire and all that kind of crap that people are spewing because they're all a bunch of phonies. Because nobody tells cops to retire and nobody tells firemen to retire. And nobody tells car racing guys to retire. And they're all risking their lives every single day. No, barely anybody's screaming from the mountains of, hey, Damar Hamlin, holy shit, that guy died on the field. How's he coming back? Tua didn't even die. He kind of appeased everybody out there by saying, "Yeah, no, I entertained it. I had those conversations with my family." But then he goes right into it. This dude is wired like any of those other people, like police officers, like firemen, like they love what they do. You weren't going to stop them from doing it. And the risk that they take, they're willing to take that risk.
No, I completely agree with you. I'm not sure if I'm on board with him, like throwing out that more solo. Okay, so for those of you who don't think I'm taking this seriously enough, here it is. I consider it. I'm not sure I'd go that far, but I completely agree with you. And I take the same offense that you do. Who the hell is anybody outside of Tua, maybe his wife, to a lesser degree his parents, to tell him, dude, you should retire. Think about the future, retire. It's his life. I mean, seriously.
Right. And you're going to tell the Walindas to stop being the Walindas?
To stop flying.
No, they fly, bro.
Exactly.
The Walindas fly. And that's it. And some Walindas are going to die and some are going to fly. And you're not going to tell and so all these phony people out there, none of them care about Tua retiring or anything. For me, it's most of them that thought he couldn't play. And so now that they're wrong about him couldn't play, they're kind of using the injury as like my man Joe Rose does that. Joe didn't think he could play, and now that he was wrong about that, now he talks about the injury all the time. And to me, that's kind of the crutch for people out there. Those phony people that are talking about the injury, it's most of them were the ones that said he couldn't play, and now that they know they're wrong about that, they go in that direction.
To me, it's okay to express your concern that you really hope he's not making like a horrible mistake or whatever. But ultimately, again, it's his life, his career, his choice. If he's okay with taking the risk, and the wife's okay with him taking the risk, then who the hell is anybody else to say anything?
What did you think of ESPN with everything going on with playoffs and everything, and front and center is Tua in the offseason, in the middle of the playoffs for the NHL, for the NBA? There's baseball going on. Hell, there's a big boxing match this weekend. All this crap going on, and Tua has a press conference, and it dominates.
Yeah, and it was in the middle of the day, and again, unfortunately, his concussion issues, but the one against Cincinnati was just like out there for all the world to see. I mean, it was like, and it became such a big talking point until it was the big story of the NFL last year until the Damar Hamlin situation happened. And now Damar Hamlin, was it 2 days ago, where he had his press conference and I've been clear, I'm coming back. Well, it kind of piggybacked off of that, where, okay, we got Damar Hamlin, now we got Tua, who had the scary situations last year, and he's talking, and let's see where that goes. A lot of airtime to be filled.
Did you get anything of substance from Chris Greer and Marvin Allen?
I did. I got more than I've ever gotten, and some of it was messages that they wanted to put out there, and some of it was interesting revelation, because usually those pre-draft press conferences are like, I mean, let me watch you paint your house. It'll be just as entertaining, The Austin Jackson comment that he's our starting right tackle was interesting.
You weren't shocked with that, were you?
No, kind of sort. No, well, yeah, kind of sort of a little bit, because to me, but then it's one of those where, I'm struggling with my thoughts.
You're not compartmentalizing your non-belief in Jackson and then the belief of what you've watched all offseason, that they've basically told us, we like him. We're not worried. We're not signing any competition. We're all in on Jackson and Eichenberg. Like, that's what they keep telling us.
But they hadn't said that.
No matter how much, neither one of those guys has convinced all of us. Okay, right. And I'm with you on this. Like, Jackson hasn't convinced me. Eichenberg hasn't convinced me, but I am convinced of this. They're convinced they like him. That's for sure.
But they had never. They never. I don't think they had said it as forcefully with him as they had with Eichenberg. And to me, I don't like the idea. I mean, could it have been done as a show of confidence for Jackson, who's a guy. Some guys need reassurance more than others. I think Austin falls into that category. I think some of it was
That's who they are, anyways. That's their DNA.
correct, but some guys need it more than others. And to me, I still don't like the idea of not bringing in a veteran, a starting level right tackle.
I agree.
To at the very least compete with him, even though give Jackson the first reps. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
But if there's some hesitation as to how well he can handle the job, then you have somebody else there. The Cedric Wilson comments were interesting, trying to do right by Cedric Wilson.
Yeah.
That's one of those like, oh my, he might have just told us I'd love to be able to trade him,
I think that's been the case from the get-go, but again, I think that's kind of cool on his part, because that kind of sends a message to other players and agents that, they kind of screwed this guy because they signed him and then they brought in Tyreek. And so now, while he's getting paid, he didn't really get to showcase his skills like he wanted to. But at the same time, they're not just dumping him in some bad team in a bad situation just to get rid of him. By him saying they're trying to do right by the guy, I think they're also trying to send a message around the league that, hey, we're trying to do things the right way too, by the players and by the franchise too. So I think it's kind of a dual message that was being sent. Yeah, we'd like to move him, but we also want to handle things the right way for the franchise and for a player that really had nothing to do with this scenario. It's not his fault that Tyreek Hill became available. You know what I mean?
No, but it's his fault that he didn't show enough to where the Dolphins would be like, oh, we need to keep him on the roster. We'll gladly pay him his cap number if we know for a fact that guy's a clear third option on this team. We need to keep him. The fact that
I just think we're a little. I just think some of you guys, like you there in this case, I think you're a little unfair with the guy, because he was competing with two guys that knew the system inside and out. The coach already had favorites with those guys because he likes both those guys. And you're not really playing much as a third receiver as it is on this team. So there really aren't a lot of opportunities for Sherfield, for Craycraft, and for Said. And so it's almost like he was at a disadvantage at that point. You know what I mean? And they might have been practicing him more on the outsides anyways to fill in for those guys than playing him here, kind of like what they did with Dieter. Dieter was not practiced at guard last year. I don't know if people know this. Dieter was held completely at center last year, just in case something happened to Connor. They kept him in the mindset of center. So I'm wondering if they did the same thing to Said, where they kept him only on the outside and really didn't give him as many opportunities inside. I'm just saying.
I don't remember that exactly. What I do remember was, and I watched every single solitary training camp practice, I remember being massively underwhelmed by what he looked like and thinking to myself,
that's fair.
Oh God, they paid what for this guy?
It's fair.
So yeah, I'm not totally.
Wait, Chase Edmonds was a good player.
Correct.
Didn't look good here.
He looked good. He looked good in training camp, and then all of a sudden he dropped the pass. His confidence got shook, and he was never the same guy.
And he was in the wrong holes too.
Yep.
Top of all of that, You know what I mean? And he was a good player in Arizona.
He was.
Sometimes
very, very good complimentary player. Yeah, I didn't. I'll be honest with you, Big O. I hear where you're coming from, but I honestly didn't see it with Wilson. And
I just want to give him the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? I just want to give him the benefit of the doubt for last year. I want to see how he handles it this year, because there is no Trent Sherfield now. So you only have to deal with Craycraft. So what happens now? You know what I mean? We'll see.
Well, what happens now if they get any kind of offer for a team and then they don't have to retain most of the salary, he's gone. I mean, that's what's going to happen. If not, I'm curious to see it, and I will go into training camp with an open mind and see what he can produce this year. But I didn't see anything last year that to me came close to justifying the contract they gave him.
You when you were on earlier, they had not signed Chosen yet, right? It was just after, correct?
No, we talked Monday, and they signed him over the weekend.
That's what it was. Okay, so we did talk. Okay, All right. So, what do you got working on Sports Illustrated, so folks can check you out? And when is the next Omar and Poupart video?
That actually came out today. It's available
Okay.
now on alldolphins.com,
There
on
you go.
YouTube. We had a story today. Oh, I know you're going to love this one. Omar did a column dissecting the Tua comments about the retirement discussion. And we're going to have a whole bunch of draft stuff as well. And then I did something because, like it or not, it's a story. And you and I actually had discussed this. We're on the same page on this. Tom Brady spoke at an event in Miami today. The MC asked him, well, now that you live in Miami, would you consider coming out of retirement to play for the Dolphins? And he completely tapped danced around the question, saying something like, I have some good friends on the Dolphins. Never said no. And in my story, he is 2023 Jay Cutler. If you remember 2017,
Right. Yeah.
something happened to Tannehill in training camp. The phone call, they didn't go to Matt Moore, who was a more than capable backup. Adam Gase called Jay Cutler. Something happens to Tua in training camp early in the season. Tom, and he certainly didn't shut the door down on that idea with his tap dancing around the question.
Yeah, I almost feel like at times he wants to stay relevant. That he's in that mode right now that he's falling out of relevance, and so now he wants to stay relevant by, throwing stuff out there and stirring it up. And by the way, one of his friends is no longer part of the organization.
If you look on, then they need to update the Dolphins.com website because he's still listed on there.
Well, no, he hasn't divested, but that doesn't mean that he's really a part of it. You know what I'm saying?
No, but he mentioned players. He said I have some Dolphin players that I will root for. Trying to figure out who that might be because I'm looking at.
Rose gone.
Who?
Rose gone.
Correct. He played one year with Justin Bethel. Would that really be?
And Landon Roberts is gone.
Braxton Berrios, he played with him in New England also. Those are the two who played with him in New England. Could it be other guys that he met through NFL circles, like more prominent guys, maybe Tyreek Hill, maybe Teron Armstead?
Yeah.
I don't know. Trying to think who it might have been. But he specifically said, I have good friends who are Dolphin players. I'll root for them. So, but actually, I'm going to take issue with does Tom Brady really need to worry about remaining relevant? He's starting on Fox next year.
Football-wise, yes.
He's starting on Fox next year with a contract that's 8 years or however long his contract is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think to me, it's more the idea that he wants to keep everything open as a possibility. So let me not make any, definitive statements.
Okay. All right. We'll see what happens.
We shall.
All right. Follow him on Twitter at Poupart NFL. And as always, catch him twice a week doing his thing here and check out the latest podcast between him and Omar Kelly. Were you laughing when Tua said they let you back in?
Everybody was laughing. It was very funny.
Tua was good yesterday, by the way.
He was very good.
Really good. Like you could tell Tua without Flores in the building and Tua with McDaniel in the building. Like it is so much better for you guys too. You know what I mean? Because it was almost like, I don't know, he was walking on eggshells all the time under the other guy. Here you get to see the real dude. And he was really good with you guys yesterday and all the questions. So I thought that was actually
pretty. He's a lot more open. He's a lot more, you can tell he's a lot more comfortable in his skin. The fact that he's got a coach who's
allows him to be comfortable.
Well, I was going to say loosey-goosey, but that's not, you know what I'm talking about. He's more laid back. The fact that he also had success last year, all of it helps,
Yeah, it's great for you guys. You get to cover like real human beings now. Absolutely. Instead of a machine that you covered for a couple of years with Flo. All right, follow him on Twitter at Poupart NFL. Poupart, have a great weekend, my friend. We'll catch up next week.
Yes, sir. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, sir. There you go. Alain Poupart, baby. Poupart NFL. Catch his work there at Sports Illustrated. Bookmark alldolphins.com. And when it comes to EJD construction, Dade or Broward County, and a lot of our friends in Broward County, you are having issues with all the flooding and everything going on. Call EJD Construction if you need to rebuild and redo those homes. Major home construction. custom home construction, major home remodeling. Call Eric, 305-433-4843. Save it on that cell phone, 305-433-4843. And they're fully insured, liability and workers' comp, so you don't have to worry. Everybody that works on your property, if they get injured, they're not suing you. And listen, if you don't hire EJD Construction, okay, whoever you do hire, make sure they're fully insured and make sure they prove it to you that they're fully insured. Because if they're working on your property and somebody gets injured, that person can sue you, okay? So you need to make sure you hire people that are fully insured because that protects you, the customer. Call Eric right now. This is the owner's personal cell number, 305-433-4843.